Apollo's Chariot was the first ever B&M hypercoaster built at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg in March of 1999. It opened a little over a month before Raging Bull, the two of which are the only B&M hypers that feature a pre-drop off the lift hill. Unlike that ride, however, that is a twister layout, Apollo's Chariot is straight out and back, specifically through the trees. It's the first ride you see when you pull up to Busch Gardens, and really it's a difficult ride to see in general because of all the trees that surround it. You can't really get close to it at all. It goes pretty far back there. The plus side of that, however, is that it is a fantastic night ride. Probably the best rides I've ever had on Apollo's Chariot were at night. But I'm going to talk about all that and more in this review. Going over some of the basic things though, starting with the stats, we have a drop of 210 feet, but interestingly enough, Apollo's Chariot's height is only 170 feet, so 40 feet shorter. That's because the ride drops into a ravine. So they actually did a pretty good job of using the terrain to its advantage. You really see that with this turnaround section here. Notice how low the track gets up against the ground. If you sit on the left side as you're going around that turn, if you reach your hand out, sometimes you can whack some grass. That first drop that I was talking about is at a 65-degree angle, so not particularly steep. At the bottom, you reach your max speed of 73 miles per hour, and the entire ride experience is made up of airtime hill after airtime hill, almost 5,000 feet of track. So it is definitely a long ride. And you know, sometimes when you ride a roller coaster, the more you ride it, the more you appreciate it. You notice different things about it that it does well, and that makes the ride kind of jump up in your rankings a bit. This is one of those rare scenarios where I feel like it is actually the opposite. The more I ride Apollo's Chariot, the more I just don't really care for it. But I can't really be that upset about it. I mean, again, it is the first ever B&M hypercoaster, so if anything, it is proof that the company got so much better with how they built their rides. I would say just about any B&M hyper is going to be better than this one. Not only do I think Apollo's Chariot is showing its age, it's not as smooth as it once was, I also don't think it packs in as much airtime. Especially if you ride Apollo's Chariot when it is cold out, you are going to crawl over some of these hills and you might get little to no airtime the entire ride. And that's especially the case in the front. I think Apollo's Chariot is definitely a backseat ride. That's where you're going to be able to get more of that floaty feeling, but I think it all depends on how well the ride is running. More so than some other rides, I think Apollo's Chariot can be a hit or miss. Either it's going to be totally awesome, so many great airtime moments, paced really well, delivered in every aspect, or it's really sluggish, no airtime, and you get off and you're like, well, that was stupid. And unfortunately, I think most of the time it's underwhelming. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any good moments. I think some hills stand out more than others. A couple in particular I want to highlight: the drop off the mid-course, especially in the back. That can be a really good moment. I also quite enjoyed this little wave turn to the side that goes underneath Apollo's Chariot's drop, almost like a junior wave turn. And then the final drop, it almost does a little dip and then drops even lower, which is kind of this cool little surprise. You think it's going to be a big drop, it's not, and then the big drop comes. So again, in the back, that can be pretty fun. And then needless to say, I think the drop also has some pretty decent airtime in the back. I mean, because what happens is the front will be about to go over the drop while the back is still just detaching from the lift, and so you kind of get pulled over a little bit, but it's not done anywhere near as well as Raging Bull. Raging Bull has what might be the best first drop on a B&M hyper. They absolutely nailed that. I don't know if that's quite the same with Apollo's Chariot. I think it's fine, but again, it's temperamental. I think one thing is for sure though, that helix at the far turnaround is going to be a little intense. You're going to pull some good G-forces there. There's a good chance you'll gray out. I know I've grayed out on many occasions going through that upwards turnaround, so that part is definitely done well. But overall, I think the ride's biggest weakness is the pacing, the speed it goes over some of these hills, because frankly, there's a couple moments where if you were just taking them a little faster, it would vastly improve the ride experience. And then also the shaping of some of these hills. Really, it is proof that B&M has gotten a lot better. So I appreciate Apollo's Chariot for what it is, but personally, I think the ride leaves a lot to be desired. And if anything, it makes me appreciate other B&M hypers that do this style of ride a lot better. So for Apollo's Chariot's final score, I am giving it a 6 out of 10. And that's because when you compare it to all the other B&M hypers or this style of ride, this is clearly one of the weakest. It was super innovative at the time, but the fact of the matter is, with so many cooler rides out there, this one just doesn't stack up. But if you get the chance, I do recommend a back row night ride. It is absolutely pitch black out there, and that is a pretty cool sensation. But those are just my thoughts on Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Let me know down in the comments below if you've ridden this ride, if you agree with the points I've made, and of course stay tuned for more coaster reviews here at Coaster Studios, and we'll see you next time.